Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. It is related on the authority of Ali radiallahu anhu that he heard from the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying, beware of a great trial to appear. Beware of a great trial to appear. Ali radiallahu anhu asked, what is the way out of that trial, O Prophet of Allah? The Prophet replied, the Book of Allah. In it are instructive narratives of preceding nations and information about things to come. The Quran informs of future consequences and outcomes of deeds, that is, amal and moral conduct, akhlaq, to appear in the world and the hereafter. The Quran contains verdicts about the differences that may arise among you, that is, over amongst just and unjust, right and wrong. The verdict of the Quran is decisive, not loose. If a tyrant relinquishes the Quran, that is, out of arrogance or rebelliousness, Allah will destroy him, and he who looks for guidance without the Quran will come upon only misguidance. That means he will remain deprived of guidance and truth. The Quran alone is a strong means for establishing a relationship with Allah, a prudent instruction, a straight path, and a manifest truth that protects man's thoughts from taking wrong inclinations and his tongue from committing distortions. That is, people introduce changes in previous divine books through the tongue by mispronouncing words in them, but the Quran has been protected by Allah Himself until the day of judgment against these distortions. That is in parenthesis. The scholars will never get satiated with this knowledge, i.e. the work of pondering upon the Quran and investigating truth and knowledge in it shall continue forever. A time shall never come for scholars to feel that they have discovered the Quran fully and that there remains nothing else to pursue further. To the contrary, the more they advance in their understanding of the Quran, the more earnestness to learn further will they develop. They will feel that what they have learned is absolutely nothing in comparison to what is still beyond their knowledge. The Quran will never grow old due to excessive reading. As against other books, the Quran will appear more interesting when recited more and ponder upon more. And the words of the Quran, that is, its deep and subtle meaning and wisdom, will never exhaust. The glory of the Quran is such that when the jinns heard it, they said, we have really heard a wonderful recital. It gives guidance to the right, and we have believed therein. He who spoke in accordance with the Quran said the truth, and he who acted upon it deserves reward. He who judged according to it observed justice, and he who invited toward it was shown the straight way. In other words, the Sirat al-Mustaqim. So this comes from the book of Du'as, and we read these from time to time to remind ourselves where we're coming from. that the Quran is the Hidayah. And in these perilous and growing more perilous times, you need the Quran more, because we have to remind ourselves, because sometimes people won't remind us, we have to remind ourselves of certain things. It's simple. No matter how accurate you become on suggestions, on determining or recognizing future facts that may happen, whether your predictions are becoming so accurate it's unbelievable, you have to remind yourself that the Quran is the Hidayah and that those blessings all come from Allah. Although we should keep score, that means that you should keep a record of your batting averages. I mean, how often are you correct? How often do you make right decisions? What have you been dealing with? How is your behavior in compared with what you've been dealing with? So those are things that we should be aware of. And the Quran should be the guidance. So the Prophet, peace be upon him, was telling Ali that there's a great fitna that's going to occur. And it happened smack dab before his lifetime ended, but during his lifetime, he faced a great challenge. His family faced a great challenge. So he was told by the Prophet, peace be upon him, that a great fitna is going to appear. And then Ali asked, what's the best way out of that trial? What should I do when that happened? He said, adhere to the Quran, the book of Allah, Kitabullah. This is the book, just like the book says about Dhalikal Kitabu La Raiba Fihi Hudan Lil Muttaqin. That's the book, and it is guidance. You stick with it, you won't have no problem. This is a book that it has great historical narratives about the pattern of behavior of peoples. So when you assume a position of leadership, that means you're guiding other people, a lot of things are going to fall on you, and the better guided you are, the better you're going to guide the people. And also, you have to keep score. We always mention this. You have to keep score so that you know what your batting averages is. Not so you can brag about it to public, but you have to know, wait a minute, I'm slipping a little, and if you're increasing in predictability, right? You have to also keep score of that. In the last week, there was a meeting in Tehran. And the Russians were there and the Chinese were there, but they were, I think, on video. But all the nations around Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, all of that, Pakistan, Iran was hosting a meeting, technically of the 6 countries surrounding, and China was there also. I think China and Russia was on video, but the others, since they were close by. And so they outlined some principles of behavior dealing with the dire situation in Afghanistan. So they came up with some some guidelines, which we'll talk about at another time. But I mention that because this showed leadership. You got to remember that Afghanistan has been a problem for over 40 years, and it's mostly been a problem for the people around them. That is especially Iran and Pakistan. And therefore, it showed a great level of guidance and direction. Now, we had made certain statements when this thing happened in Afghanistan. We said, number one, it's a great tragedy for the United States of America. They're standing in the world, they ran out of Iraq, they ran out of Afghanistan, and they don't just run out like, okay, we're going to leave and have an orderly withdrawal. They look like they getting ran out of town. And it's sad, but it's hilarious. Even the predictors that predicted they was going to have things happen to them, they didn't know that they would have people sitting in the wheel space of big airliners trying to stay on the plane when they know that the wheel is going to roll and it's going to throw them off and throw them right in the front and it's going to run over them. But now it looked bad for the United States to run off from Vietnam and to be people hanging on helicopters trying to get off there on the roof in 1975. That looked bad. And that tarnished America's image for years. But this one right here sunk America's image. But now we have to pay attention. What did they leave behind? They left weapons behind. They left all of those things behind. And in fact, a lot of the weapons they left behind, they had just ordered them from over here and took them over there and left them. They had left them evidently for the people that are taking over. Who's taking over? The Taliban. They left them and they just took them over. Helicopters, they didn't know how to fly. And they all of a sudden, you start seeing new Humvees going up and down the street. Okay. But they left them in a certain situation. They left them in a situation where they're well armed. They left them in a situation where there's sectarianism developing. Since then, there's been 2 Shia Masjid bombed and hundreds of people killed. Okay, so it was easy to see what they were trying to arrange. Okay, you have Afghanistan that's had 40 years of real fitna, a little over 40 years. The people are just, hey, we had enough. Come on now. Whoever takes over, no war, we just need a rest. We got 2 generations of people who don't remember not being in a war. Only the old people remember a time of peace in Afghanistan. The young people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, they would be younger. You know what I mean? They might remember some peaceful time, in Afghanistan, if they're in their 50s. But anybody in their 30s, 40s, they don't remember a time in Afghanistan when there was no peace. Also, anyone that studies would have known that Afghanistan, and we said it here, but the people don't listen. That's okay. They don't have to listen. It's no big deal for us. It said that Afghanistan is a graveyard of empires. Now, Our view is like this. We believe that after 9/11, they had all this hoopla going on, and within a few months, in 2001, right, they invaded Afghanistan. I mean, if the World Trade Center went down in September, I think it was the end of October they had invaded. Yeah, they invaded. The U.S. invaded. And at first they really rolled in like kicking behind and taking names. They had done such a good job, the Russians were praising them. You really pulled this off right. That's what the Russians were saying, because they had just run out after 10 years. They said, we had enough, after all the damage they did. 1.6 million people killed by the Russians in Afghanistan, 10% of the population. At that time, 16 million was the population of Afghanistan. If the Russians killed those numbers are so big that we don't pick them up here. It's okay. Then they went to Iraq. It was a 100% lie. Weapons of mass destruction. They never found none. They never smelt none. They never got close to none. And they rolled on over there. Same story. Man, we kicking behind and taking names. Technically, did this rolled over because, in Iraq, they don't have, it's not like Vietnam where you can hide your tanks in the woods and all of that. It's just open desert. So all the weapons you got, right, you can see everything and bam, push buttons and it was a disaster. And then finally they caught old Saddam Hussein and then put him on trial. And all of a sudden, we wrote an article in 2004. It was called Another Islamic State. Does anybody remember that? Another Islamic State. Now, what we forecast and predicted that we will get 65% of what we want. In other words, the state of Iraq will be 65% headed in our directions, whatever it takes. That means the Congress, the Majlis, the system, it will be more Islamic than anything we've had before except Iran. Iran is on a roll. I tell you, the longer this goes, the more prouder and happy I'm becoming about Iran. There's no doubt about it. Not perfect, but we'll talk about some of the things that's going on. So Iraq, well, what happened then? It was a trick, and the only one that was big enough to trick these dummies was Allah. So he tricked them. Go in Afghanistan. They drove in there. Caves was Tora Bora, and they had old Bin Laden set up. He probably died 3 days after whatever. He had liver problems, And then the pictures you would see that's supposed to be Bin Laden, it looked like Abdullah Jobani or somebody. You know what I mean? Remember you see the pictures, they got his back to the wall, he's watching TV and all that. And so what you ain't got out all them pictures from Abbottabad, whatever it is. You don't have no straight on picture. And then they do facial recognitions, and then it kind of didn't fit the modern stuff they got. They said that ain't but it makes no difference. Here's what happened. It appears that Allah has set in motion the transition of things in these modern times. And there's acceleration of events. But the transfer of power and authority is headed in a certain direction. And Allah could just swoop and make everything happen. But then the people would, there's what's called a sunnat of Allah, that Allah has set up all these rules, guidelines, gravity, the pull of gravity, human nature. He created all of that. He created all of that to work in harmony. If the human being follow the hidayah, right, they will be in balance with the creation. If they go out of balance, the mathematical certainty is this, that the farther they go out of line right, from the Quran, though basically the worse things are going to get. Because the balance will be, imagine when you put on new tires, you have to get them balanced, right? And if you don't have them balanced, the car will shake so much you would think, what's wrong with this car? And all you have to put is a few little attachments here and there, right? And now it's running smooth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us this earth. Hey, all people knew that there's something special going on here. It was not in a movie from outer space. What did the guy say? The guy from outer space, and the earth stood still. Remember that? Yeah, remember there's a scene that there in the rain. He says, I thought you said you came to save the earth. Well, yeah. But then she thought, you came to save the earth from us. There's only a few places like this in the universe, and you know what I mean, which makes sense. There's only a few environments like this in the universe. We know where a lot, we don't know the whole universe, but we know this region of the universe, and it ain't nothing going on but here and 4 or 5 more other places that supports this comprehensive kind of life. So you came to take the earth, to protect the earth from us. That's the way it go. And then she's, of course, pleading that, oh, come on now, we're not that bad. And finally he says, okay, we'll give you another chance, stuff like that. But that makes sense. At least the people that are making some movies are doing some thinking. What makes sense is something that the so-called Secretary of State lady said. When old environments come in contact with new environments, it says the ones that has the most power and that organized obliterates the other or turns it into slaves. Right? Like when America came, when the people came, they came over here from Europe, they just ruined. It's perfect. It's nice over here. The people, they was having wars like all other people, but they wasn't like slaughtering. When the people came from Europe, hey man, Mexico City, the floating gardens of Mexico City had 500,000 people hundreds of years ago. And they wasn't living that religious. I mean, they was sacrificing people and stuff. I mean, but it was just logo chicanery. Out of all the peoples, I didn't mean to change this subject, but I watch programs with Native Americans when they talk about the beliefs and what have you. they always mention prophets, messengers, and a reviver. Like all the stuff we have, they have it too. They have it in there, and Wonka Tonka is the big the other thing, like the eagle and the hawk-eye. They got good characteristics that says, man, an eagle or a hawk can see a little old mouse from 1,000 feet up. That's nice. And they might give that some extra angelic, but they don't believe that this stuff just popped here and, all this organization, all of this. They know something more powerful than them placed it here and placed them in it. That's why they all had rituals that replenished the earth. One of them I mentioned a few weeks ago was every time they planted a thing of that Indian corn, the spotted corn and all that, they put a fish in there with the seed. And just imagine how much, when that fish decomposes, why that corn was really, this is what they did. And the Europeans know that they did it. They're the ones that reported on, yeah, they did this, they did that. Okay, anyway. So they had a whole crew. That's why when the Hadith say it was 307,000 prophets and messengers, 124,000 prophets, and messengers, you can kind of get the feel. And when you hear them talk, when you hear the chiefs talk today, they sound very close to, no, we had wise men and they told us this and they came, so-and-so came and, and all of that. I said, oh, yeah, they down with it, they know they didn't pop up here and they can just abuse everything. You know what I mean? Boss man don't do that. Boss man, he don't have no ritual that say, oh Lord, thanks for this big river that's flowing through here and us to have the ability to put a dam here and that's going to hold back the water and we thank you for the ability to do this. And anything, they don't do that. They say, well, the president and all the Congress, they did a good job and here we got this such and such that's going dry up there now. You know what I mean? Can you imagine it? Okay, we'll get back to the subject. So what we do here is we take the Quran. This is Hidayah. And we're going to say it over and over again because no matter how many of these things stay intact, we're in a time of redundancy and repetitiveness. Redundancy is basically like if anything happens or goes wrong and only 10% of these DVDs survive, right? Just 10%. That's great. Because with 10% of them, and there's that many of them out, and they don't have to be the latest. They could go far back as they want. Which there's some of them intact from cassette tapes that were years and years old when people were using cassettes, right? They say almost the same thing as now. And all the forecasting predicted this stuff, right? All of them did the same thing. Every week, this is it's called redundancy. If you build a spacecraft, you have to have at least 4 or 5 redundancies. This go wrong, a redundancy do that. That go wrong, a redundancy. You know what I mean? We're dealing with a movement, a global movement. And we're here in the United States of America by ourselves. And Boss Man got everybody with him, although Boss Man shouldn't have nobody with him by now. Right? But Boss Man done brainwashed people until the poor people are just still there following Boss Man. No matter what he do, they follow Boss Man. Boss Man is psychotic. And Boss Man not only have their families, but the whole world in jeopardy. And they're still following it. They might be following because of the inability. First of all, this is the pattern in history, right? And we see it over and over again. That it wasn't just because, say, some of the people followed Freemasons, some of them follow this, some of them join a fraternity or something. You know what I mean? History is repetitive, and the people was misguided by all of that stuff. You know what I mean? Whatever it was. That's why it was a need for the Quran, for the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to come, and after him, he's Khatam an-Nabiyyin. But if you look at the world today, right now, here we are. We have forecasted literally everything that's happening now. And the forecasting, because you think when you get older, you get a little, not good a grip on things. But actually, the accuracy level is increasing. It's increasing. And the close timeness is increasing. That means that a lot of people are getting comfortable. Those to me, there's certain ayats going around that, hey, this might be a little close. We're getting a little close to something. Okay. Now, how do we know these? We know the things because what we've been doing. You have to study yourself. You can't pretend like, oh, we're just talking. No. You have to keep score. And we keep score. We keep a record of what we're doing, what we're talking about, and we've been doing it all along so that we know what's the level of accuracy. What's the score? How are we doing? When you look on the board, you want to see how are we doing? Where are we at in this game? What do we have to do to catch up? Right? What do we have to do to catch up? Or what do we have to do to maintain our lead? Right? Whatever the score is telling you, and we have to keep score on this whole thing. And so, with that in mind, we look at a lot of the things that are happening in the world today. Back to last week. Since this is Sunday. Last week, Iran had a multilateral, multi-country program in Tehran. I think it was 6 nations, including China and Russia, or along with them. But I know Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, all of them guys was there, and Pakistan and Iran. And it was brilliant. What made it brilliant? It was brilliant because they was coming together. Iran brought everybody together, so let's work on this as a collective. So whatever is going on, we're not dealing with this by ourselves. Everybody around here is going to be a part of this, right? It was wonderful. They worked out some things that they wanted to do, and it was a win. It was a win just to have the meeting. Now, first, the Rahbar said weeks ago that we have to be careful about, well, we kind of said it first. They left those weapons behind for some reason. They're killing people in Shia Masjid for some reason. It's not even a thought thing. You got to figure out what they're trying to do. Iran put a freeze on that. It's a freeze on that. The Rahbar told them a month ago when it happened, but now the freeze is on. Everybody is involved. It's not like, okay, you're going to start a war with us. No, everybody's involved. In that whole region, the whole region, that means to me, when I see that, I said, boy, our homeboys is on the roll. When we look at Lebanon, and we look at the Hezbollah flags and these trucks rolling in full of fuel and what have you, we see, right, that they on a roll. They are an ally of the Islamic Republic. And that means their ally is giving them, sending it to Syria, and it's coming right across the land, to help the people. And the people see that, we talked about the Qardan Hasana, loan to Allah, beautiful loan. They have a thing in Saudi Arabia called that was from Lebanon. They just put a flag on it the other day and said, we're closing that down. Lebanon, we're closing that down. Not only they kidnapped last year before last, the Lebanese prime minister or head of the Lebanon, and kept him in Saudi Arabia for 2 weeks. These people are ridiculous. Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, look, we always prayed, oh Allah, bring this foolishness out and put it on. But I mean, this is like, hey, I'm telling you, it's unbelievable. So everything is happening except one or two things, but we can't be like, oh, you guys got to do this, that, and another. No. There's things like airlifts that are still, but they're doing what they can on land and everything, right? Okay, blockade running for Yemen. A lot of things is happening, but we can't demand of people that are doing a good job for the position they're in. Remember, all of the stuff they're doing while they're under attack. That's why there's a time in history when those heavy attacks are healthy for the country because it builds up their resistance and everything. They build up their institutions. They say, oh no, we're going to build up this, that, and other because when we needed help, y'all just let Saddam come in and do anything he wants. So you can't tell us don't build no what's the names because we'll look out for you. You ain't looked out for us and nobody else, right? So the Islamic Republic, that the pressure they're under is healthy for them. What we deal with in the United States is healthy for us. It's very, very healthy. Nobody else would look at that like that. Nobody else looks at Iran like that hardly. The people say, they've been telling Iran for years in the UN, man, if they hit us with one of the things, one of the 15 or 20 things they didn't hit y'all with, we would have been crushed with just one of them. But then they ease on back. I ain't said nothing. Don't send me no letter. I don't know what you're talking about. But everybody is watching. All the things that we have visualized happening are happening because we're under unbelievable attack here in the United States. Surveillance 24/7 plus da 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 da, and it ain't bothering us at all. It's not having no effect. Here's why. Number one, we're studying our situation. And also, we're influencing our environment. Because leadership have to deal with, let's say, environmental circumstances. How the leadership deal with the environmental circumstances has a lot to do with the goals and the objectives and the things that have to be dealt with. That's one of the things with leadership. And they have certain leaderships that a certain time, a certain type of leadership is needed, And there's other times when a certain balance, the characteristics of leadership are always similar, but there are certain weights and measures that have to be applied or could be applied or should be applied at different times. In America, we're doing our part. We're doing an excellent part, and that's not bragging to ourselves. That's just like we measure Iran and all other. We have to also measure ourselves. Okay. We have to look at how many people are on our team. What's our environment here? You just have to do it. Okay. So we come up with certain conclusions. How are we acting within the environment that's presented to us? See, remember, we don't have control over most of the environmental realities that we encounter, right? So we have to do our own process of developing the type of environment where we can, or developing the characteristics that are suitable for us to do in our time and in the time, place, and circumstances, right? Where are we at now, right? So then the leadership could develop a static, non-flexible leadership pattern. They could include in that reactionary behavior, where they react to, like, remember shaping and herding, how they do all of the big Muslim leadership here. They do something to them, they react. They're reactionary. They move over here. Then they do something else and they move over there. Pretty soon, they're being controlled by the system. What they do to them, what they say in the news, all those things have a 99, let's just give them a break, a 90% relationship to how they behave, what they say in their programs, what speakers they bring to speak and talk about, right? That means their behavior is being shaped by what their enemy is doing to them, and then they're being herded, just like cattle, down a certain path. Because the leadership they're going to bring to them are going to be not Uncle Toms and all of that, but that type of personality that tell them and keep them going in that way. Why? Because those people are created and made by them. They come from their universities. Some of their best speakers come from American University over here. If they need a troubleshooter in Oakland, when we're out there, they send them out there to hang around with maybe Hamza Yusuf or something, help him out. When that period is over, he goes back to wherever, right? When they need somebody to go against the presentation that we're making, Daoud somebody from somewhere. We call him the bitter man. This goes back 25 years ago, at least. That's about 25 years ago when the bitter man come rolling in. This is bitter, that's bitter. And everybody gravitated to them. Like this is the new thing. Okay? So since they didn't just jump up and gravitate, they were programmed to gravitate. We have to understand that the Islamic movement in America is controlled by a boss man. And now the Zionist, really controlled. Boss man, say maybe running 25%, stuff like that. But the main thing, the Zionists are in control of the American political system, right? The black movement in America. Remember we went down and we was talking and they had that big sign in the street, Black Lives Matter stuff, and we gave a little program. And the Black Lives Matter people walked right by us and went over. They didn't even stop and say hi. They didn't even stop and say hi. As though somebody told them and somebody selected them as leaders. Most of them was girls and most of them were young and they didn't have any background on anything. And every time we went down there, we did teach-ins explaining to the people, this is what we did in the past, this is what would be helpful. I would think that everything we told them was good. It would have helped them. They didn't want to hear it. They never came and stopped and listened. And nothing, right? And our friends overseas, when we came out with the first two programs, they was trying to coax us to do this and do that. And after, we came on with the crowds in the background and we said we want to thank the people of the Islamic Republic because da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. After a while, what happened? Oh, things was up in the air, finished, right? And they send people over here to tell us, don't you think that this is what's really happening? I said, ain't what's happening? No, sirree. And sitting right there, that park right there, over there, we was sitting in that park. I said, let's go around there and talk. The brother came back from Iran, one of the ones that I know real well. And after I continued to say what I was saying, he closed up the notebook and stopped taking notes. And the people on the cameras right here, they just shut down and went home. Because they didn't want the people in Iran to hear what we were saying. Right? This is what... yeah. Some who? Some media organization, or is it IR? Islamic Republic, IR, and something like that. Something like that. IRNA, right. Right, okay. Well, they received an award based on their coverage of that. They were supposed to be on the scene, right after George Floyd got killed. So their coverage of that, got them this reward. Right. So I guess my question is, first of all, if you're familiar with them, were they falling in line with that same program that they wanted a particular picture of that situation that was counter to ours? Okay. The media back home right now, when I say back home, it means Iran. The head of the media got his job because 30 years ago, he was staying in the Masjid around there when we was around there. And they brought him to me, or I met him in the office, and the brothers say, you get around, we want you to take the brother around. We went around the United States, the eastern United States. We went up to Boston, and he did interviews with Noam Chomsky and did that whole show. And he did a program, which was a 12-hour program of me. And he did it 1 hour. And so I took him all around here to see, and I tell it, because he looked European. You know, some Iranians look European. So he looked European. I said, you have to keep the camera down. This is in the 90s. I said, because the Negro, if they see you and they see me, they going to think you the police taking pictures of them, right? And they going to see me and they going to think I'm a snitch taking you around and setting them up. So you got to keep that camera out of sight. So we went around, we would take pictures of everywhere, all right there by the shrimp boat, all wherever, right all around here, everything, and all up and everywhere. The people of Iran liked that program so well that they made him the head of Islamic Revolutionary Broadcasting. He became the chief. That's why he calls me now, and he would call. He's the same one that made the movie on Isa alayhi salam. Do you remember the guy that was here showing the film? Okay, on Esau. He showed it here. Yeah, he showed it here. And, you know, the response of the Negro was superior. He showed it to a lot of people because he got an award from the Vatican on that view, you know, an alternative view. And so he became the head of the Islamic. He is right now up to the day. He has a lot. He's the most famous broadcaster there. And when you go, they got a whole new broadcasting area that, like, when you go on, you got to have an ID to get in. They got antennas sticking up all over, so the radio, the TV, everything, they got it. It's a central location. And you want to go, you want to do interviews. That's what they got a nice hookup. He's in charge of all of that. And I took him around, and the thing about our position is they know our position. We're in with everybody that does that. But the people that are in charge are, they're moderates. They're moderates, and it's not. They're trying to sell the people of Iran. That's why, if you notice, whenever I come on, I don't care where it is, first thing I do is thank the people of Iran for doing this and doing that, and they don't like that. They want them to think that they're not doing that good, and if they did it this way, it would be better. They can't say it, but when you look at all of their programs, you would get that view, is that they got a group of people. See, anyway, after a revolution, during a revolution, the people that take over they take over a revolution. And in the beginning, when the war is going on, 1980 to 1988, there's not much, people don't bring up too much because you got to keep focused. We got to win this war. Right? So all the presidents then was focused. Bani Saad, they got rid of him in 2-3 days. Well, not that quick, but he didn't last no time. They got rid of him. He just died in France last month. Abu Hassan Bani Saad, he was a munafiq. Anyway, everybody else, the Rahbar, Rafsanjani, Khatami, Ahmadi Nijad. I have friends that told me, big people up in I hate Ahmadinejad. I hate him. So, I didn't say you shouldn't hate him because he's Iranian too and you're all Muslims, but because I wanted to hear what he have to say. I hate him. And the program he has says he wants to give more money to the poor and whatever. Doesn't sound that bad to me. But I didn't say nothing because I wanted him to give me his picture. That crew is out now. Their philosophy is out now. But I would like to say this. The Islamic Republic of Iran's political team that's on board now is really learned a lot. After 40 years, you're going to get the game. And after being under all that pressure, they're outperforming anybody in the world. They're outperforming anybody in the world. That's why last week, we're going to have a conference on Afghanistan and bring all those people together. Now, it ain't just Iran that they can, because everybody is watching them. Hey man, they're getting sharp. Now, let me try to explain something. Years ago, during the 80s and the early 90s, the greatest experts on Iran were people like Dr. Kaleem Siddiqui. And he wrote books on Iran. And he was sharp, okay? So we had a lot of the same characteristics. Years ago, Iranians would ask me, Imam Musa, what are we going to do? Because we had more experience, we've been in the struggle, and they're all younger. And I'll tell you the truth. This is not on the record here, but it's fine. Let me explain. We have a couple of articles on strategy and one strategic management, right, and what have you. During those years, they would take me to Iran and they would take me like these 3-bedroom apartments right there, these things right there, these 3-bedroom houses. They would have places like that and they would take me there and that whole thing would be mine. I would be there. And they was for keeping me away from the main programs, although I'd come down and make a cameo appearance. But they had me coming there since the 7 and 8 and 9 and all that. And this was interview after interview. They call them our experts, want to talk to, in other words, they're managers. And they would some of the articles, they would say, did you really write this stuff? I said, okay, here's how this stuff goes. I said, some of this stuff is from research. I said, like when you first become a musician, you play the standard music and you have favorite people that you like. And then later on, as you get on up there, you have your own sound. I said, these articles are like that. Because these are strategic management is a regular management. The first part is regular management, right? Regular strategic management. And then at the end, you're picking up, it's not the public sound, it's a personal, our personal additives about what we're doing here. And strategic management under conditions of repression might be strategic management under conditions of repression, but the conditions of repression has evolved now from particular management principles and structure and organization to at least 50% of it is written from us, not from notes and well, you always have to take notes. What I mean is we're writing that based on our experience and what have you here in America. And so they went through this. The guy that was one of the professors, English professors, he would read it and he said, "Did you really write all of this stuff?" I said, "Yeah, I wrote it." I said, "Most of it is mine, it's especially down at the end." Because, see, they had him doing so much that he was getting a headache because, see, headaches was coming because English, he's a professor of English. But now he speaks Persian and everything. He's getting a headache from reading all of this because there's, a certain language being, and he's talking with me. Finally, they done their research on me. He says, now we want to teach you about our management stuff. So the first class was sitting there. So I said, hold it, would you tell him that I already I got all that stuff down? And he told the guy in Persian, he says, this guy has already told me everything you're telling him about management, about organization. He's way out there. So I told him, I said, that thing he has is the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, stuff like that from 1966. I said, that's what he has right there. And I told him, he says, that's what he has because that's what he showed me. And he already knows. In other words, it was 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010. They didn't have nothing to teach me. But they're catching up. Now they're different. You could see what they're doing, right? They have evolved. Number one, anybody that's a leader, they don't go back to, storage bin like they do. Once you've been president, they have expediency council. You go on a council, you have a whole complex of your own. You have your own staff. Yeah. So you're part of what they call it. You help expedite things. What they do is they're not letting your experience go to waste. You have been president for so long. Of course, what's the name not there? Khatami, because, you get, anyway, I could see from the UN who was who and what's what. And it was easy. Now let's get back to the focus. The focus was on the question: how much did they, or the things that were going on here, especially last year-ish type, right? Okay. During that period, the other team was in. Okay. And that team wanted badly. Let me explain a few of these teams. When the revolution happened in Iran in 1979, the institution, it was thousands of Iranian students, more Iranian students than any group. You know, it was thousands of students. After the revolution had happened in 1979, they didn't send more students over here. But the students that were here were well organized and they had programs and programs. And so I spoke at a few of those programs. When that happened, the MSA, PSG, and the regular MSA, they had the MSA, PSG, Muslim Student Association, Persian-speaking group, and they had the MSA. At that time, it was no ISNA and all that, but it was to come later from the MSA. Since I spoke with both groups, one group, the MSA, under Saudi control, told me, "We love you, you're a nice guy. But we would like for you not to, hang around with those Iranians." I told him, "No, I ain't going to do that." I said, if they told me not to hang around with you, I'd tell all y'all the same thing. I became a Muslim and I do what the Hadith says, down with all the Muslims. They said, okay. Next time, Dr. So-and-so, the Egyptian doctor from way back that made all those tapes, I think of his name in a minute, that was having a program in Ames, outside of Ames, Iowa. And they invited me to come. This is 82 now. And so I came to speak, and it was the MSA, there's some Malaysia from all those places. And so they said the same thing the other group had told me a little while earlier. I said, no, I'm not staying away from Iranians, because I was getting popular on the circuit. I was the most popular guy on both circuits, the Iranian circuit and the Sunni circuit, So they told me that's it. They didn't say that's it. They just said, like you see your name in lights, Musa appearing tonight, special, And then after that, no more Musa in lights. Nobody, they cut it out. They had told me twice, or appealed to me twice, to stay away from the Iranians. I told them, if Iranians told me to stay away from you, I'd tell them the same thing I'm telling you. I didn't become a Muslim to become, nobody's servant but Allah's. And Allah's telling me that all of y'all is Muslim. We are all Muslims. And we would tell them in those days, we don't need Arabism, Pakistaniism, Iranianism. That was from a lecture that looked like it was May 30th, 82, at UCLA. I just cleared the thing. We don't want Arabism, like you're going to teach us Islam and throw in your Arabic. We don't want that part. We just want Islam. You Pakistanis, we like you. You relate to Negroes better than anybody in those days. But we're going to listen to everything you say, but we read in the Hadith right along, in the Quran, right along with what you say, and some of the stuff you say, that's okay. We're not going to take it. Because it's cultural, Pakistani culture. Some of it is Arab culture. Same thing with the Iranians. We was telling them, we call it Iranianism, Arabism, and all. We don't want it. We just want Islam. So that was our position, and that's the way we are now. We was like that then. But the point is that as things move along and more power is exerted, those people that come into power, our friends that was close to us in those days, as they gain more power, they have their demands that we want you to say this, and we nice guy, but we don't, we ain't. And I said, no, we ain't doing that. We don't do that, And that's why the people that come here, the guy that they made the movie about Jesus and everything, when I got to my friend's place in Iran, he called him, he came over, he had him meet me at the door, the guy that played Esau and everything. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the cast I met, because he's the one that managed the movie. Okay, but he's the same one that's in charge of because we took him all over the country, they made him in charge of the Iranian media, or you can call it that. He has the most popular program today in Iran. Okay. Lo siento mucho. I'm very sorry. I'm not going along with that stuff. I'm not going along with that stuff. Allah slipped this Islam upon us, and we have found that this is all right. And that's all we're doing. And I'll give you an example on our thing. When I start getting fired up about this stuff, say with Imam Warithuddin Muhammad, I drew further away from him. But in later years, as I saw what he was dealing with, I just said, oh, he and I was different. He didn't have the same history or the same punch. You know what I mean? It just, there are certain things that, I had said to myself in the last recent years, if I would have known what I know now, I may have never left the community. I'd have stayed there with him and said, man, I couldn't have stayed around long because all the people around him was funny acting. I'm telling you, they was funny. He said it twice. I know he said it twice. He might have said it more times. He said, you think these people is with me? I'm telling you, Fahim, the Mooga Booga brothers, all of them was on the stage. You think they with me? What, brother down in Texas and stuff, all of them was there. You think they with me? They with they self. This is what Imam Muhammad said. And so he got the point. At that point, I didn't regret that I didn't stay, because this is something, if I would have came on talking what I was talking from the very beginning, it wouldn't have worked. But I know now he's picked up on everything that he was dealing with. And that man was a good man. And it's not a psychoanalysis, but see, Imam Muhammad came up at a time when, he had to go to University of Islam and all that. And when they would walk by the Kafir school, they would say that's a real school. And this University of Islam is our school. And he grew up in that generation. He grew up with that idea. That's the way people, almost all the kids thought like that. That's a real school. Clara Muhammad is like, we got to go to Clara Muhammad, man. But you notice the kids, when they get out of them schools, they stretch out. They be gone. No, it's just, okay, I'm just saying, this is real. Look, if we don't be realistic, hey, we'll get the snot slapped out of us. And I don't like that, and I don't want to be one of them guys. I'm not saying I don't want to be slapped. I don't mind. Slapped, busted upside the head, but not that I didn't put myself in that position to do it. Okay? So by the time before Imam Muhammad passed away, I was vibing. I didn't tell everybody, but I was vibing with him. Because a man with all, because see, after you ride in the same boat with somebody, I said, man, them Negroes had him surrounded. He had to get his own account where he could send money to da-da-da-da-da. The people was deadly. You know what I mean? And they was real deadly. Anyway, so you evolve, you learn a lot. Now, back to the Islamic Republic and back to the concept of leadership. Leadership is a big deal. Time, place, and circumstance is a big deal. Historical circumstance surrounding the leader and the historical stuff going on at that time, a little before and after, that all plays a part. Okay. For us, coming from where we came from a different field than there's no other imam in the United States that came from the same background that I did. Not a single one. Not a single one. Number one, all the the stuff that went on in Oakland, power, the authority, the organizational stuff that went on in Oakland, nobody did that. And nobody did it the way we did it. Like we looked at black nationalism, black liberation and all that is a real deal. And we was looking at, well, what's our part we're going to play? First of all, black economic enterprise zones was something Martin Luther King come up with. He went to Chicago for it. He went to Chicago the same time we were doing that in Oakland. What's happening with Oakland? Oakland was the perfect size at the perfect time. Oakland is not a big, huge place like LA and all that. Oakland is 60 square miles. It's not a big, actually with Emeryville, a little piece of it is 54 square miles. But Oakland was black, it was a perfect place. It had all the essence. People would come the gangsters would come to Oakland to get the game on pimping and everything. No, because the Army base and all that was right there in Oakland. So that's where a lot of the Max worked out of Oakland. That's why it was so popular. That's why the movies, the Mac is all Oakland and stuff like that. All that stuff, Oakland was just the right size. Chicago was too big for what Dr. King wanted to do. Oakland was the right size. So we did everything that they talk about in Black National. We did that in Oakland. We just did it. And everybody know we did it. But the reason we was able to do it is because if I had friends that was boxers, I said, hey, y'all want to do boxing? Of course I ran with them. We did it. Those were friends of mine. Why don't y'all promote some of your own fights? So I would front them the money and, but they were trainers at that time. They wasn't Don King. If I'd offered it to Don King, then he'd say, I got this down pat. Because he had the thinking for that time, but that was 5, 6 years, yeah, way later. Right? Now imagine you give that to people in the 60s and you want people to develop their own institutions. You got the money, you're going to give it to them to do it, but they don't know how to do it. They're the fighters, they're trainers, they're fighters and trainers, and they're not promoters, and they're not this and that. So after a while, they give up. You keep fronting them the money, go ahead and do it, give it a try. That's because everything that we handle, we should, So if it was people in real estate, everything that people was in, we was putting out. That's what East Oakland Enterprises was. That's what we did. That's why we were different than the Ward brothers and all the famous pimps you see. I still see some of them old Negroes on the thing now. I mean, I thought I saw Fillmore Slim. Anybody know? I saw Fillmore Slim Fillmore Slim must be 84. I said, Slim. I happen to know Fillmore Slim. But they put all them people on TV. But they're not going to put anybody that did anything there. They helped the Ward brothers with a movie, The Mac. And they had them all in the movie. They had them in the movie to take so that Oakland, instead of becoming what it was becoming, to change the mind. And they put all the hustlers and famous Macs in the movie, The Mac, to give them publicity so that they wouldn't be talking about what we're over in Africa trying to get this going and doing that. Boss Man is pretty, he gets things going. He's striking out now. Look, Boss Man done struck out so much that I'll be saying to myself, Boss Man, don't go up to bat. Just go and let us stand there and let it walk out. Don't go up there no more. Right? This guy is messing up so bad, it's embarrassing. Okay, but now let's get back to it. If we could find a trail back to where we started, we'll be happy about that. Okay. Let me go back to leadership. We have an opportunity and a responsibility to do the type of leadership that we're doing. Whatever anybody else think of, that's their business. But we are practicing these guidelines of leadership at a very critical time in history. At a very critical time in history. Okay. It's critical because everything we talk about, boom, it'll pop up right there. It used to be it'll happen next month, 5 months later, this month, right? It ain't like that. It's happening. The stuff we talk about, blockade running, the Berlin airlift, if we talk about all that stuff, if we talk about let's keep our eye on Afghanistan because they left the weapons behind, that stuff comes to right in front of you the next day. Have anybody noticed that this stuff now is condensing? The time is not stretched out over a long period of time. You don't have to wait. The stuff is happening right now, and it's all big stuff. That's what we're dealing with. That's why the subject today is leadership. And leadership, that's the ability to make decisions. Strategic visioning is one of the things. That's what we're in. That's what we're doing. And we don't care what everybody else do. We don't care. We may look like the stupidest man from Mars to everybody. We could care less. It don't happen. Or people could act like they don't know what we're talking about. We don't understand. That's their business. Right? Those are all the characteristics that it takes to be the proper leader at this time. You have to be able to do it and not be even. It's not that you don't care what they think, but their pattern of behavior have went over and over again, and we can't do that now. And nor do we have the time. In the last year or so, you could see things are getting closer. Now, if you want to make an estimate, you could say that things are moving, everything is moving faster and closer together. That means the climate that's happening in California and here and everywhere is happening everywhere. Okay, something have to be done about that very soon. Because all the signs are that, hey, another couple of years, we always talk about this, you're beyond the point of no return. In other words, if you watch those programs on history program, what the earth will look like in 1,000 years if there's no more humans, in 10,000 years, you know what I mean? Well, of course, by that time, it'll be replenished, cleaned itself up. It'll be nice, without Negroes and white folks running around messing it up, right? It'll be nice. All the trees will came up through the concrete that's left here and broke it down again, and it'll be fine. Won't be no problem. Animals will be happy because there ain't no white folks around, ain't no Negro, it ain't nobody that's going to just abuse us. Our little eating each other and stuff, that's just nature. We just eat things because, we don't have anything against y'all, but y'all are actually our breakfast and whatever else we have. So that's why we do it. We don't do it because we don't like you or we're not going to pay attention. And when we finish eating you, we're going to go to the bathroom out there. It's going to go back in the ground. It's going to replenish everything. And then the buzzards are going to come by and eat up every little piece that they left that they couldn't eat. Anyway, so right now, we're in a more critical time. And most people know it, but I don't think people are acting according to basically what they know. So leadership is to influence the direction of change. That means that we do a lot of things that other people won't understand. And we want to help them understand, but I don't want to say we don't care, because that sounds arrogant. But in a way, we don't. No sirree. Everything we've told everybody, if they haven't picked up on it by now, if they haven't heard it, of course we're going to get better stuff to put out in more videos. That's why we take all the videos, because no matter what we do, we're going to get them all out one way or another. We don't care what boss man do on that thing. We're going to get them all out. They're going to get all out over and over again. That's part of the teamwork that we're going to have. And everybody's going to say, where are these? We're going to say, don't worry about it. Where were these at all the time? So this says the same thing. This happened 5 years ago. And what's the date on this thing? Oh, my goodness, you said that 10 years ago. And it happened 5 years ago. That's all right. Don't you worry about a thing. Okay, here's part of what we're doing in leadership is leadership for this 21st century, not leadership for the 20th century, right, or the 19th or the 18th. Leadership for this part of the 21st century, right, for this part of the 21st century. Okay, that means that wherever the world is at, Our world is not responding properly. Our world. When I say our world, I was looking at a few programs, and they was talking about Freemasonry and how it developed in the U.S., Prince Hall Masonries and all of that. Well, we knew, everything, not everything, but a lot of it, and fraternities and what have you. And I guess Masonic orders and fraternities are almost the same type of thing. Okay. So all I knew is a couple of things, and they wasn't at the same time. I went out to UC Davis to give a lecture, and maybe around 84, and I saw guys walking around. I didn't even know they did this stuff. I'd been in the penitentiary most of the time. They had a skeleton-looking thing on. They had the same thing, and they would go and they stand, and they would do this, and all of them would do it. I said, "Excuse me." So what the hell are they doing? So they were being initiated, and in fraternities. And then I got to doing a little study. Why would they do stuff like that? Well, it's training. First, you have to look like a fool sometime, and then the other thing is that you have to learn to follow orders. And the fraternity is the main thing. That's why George Bush and them, Mooga Booga and them, all of them belong to fraternities, right? And they ain't giving up, they ain't saying nothing. I had an uncle-like person that was, when I was doing this stuff years ago, and I was studying a little bit about masonry, because in the nation you want to. So anyway, I got to talk, this guy was a Mason, and I was talking about it, the sickle, time, and all of that stuff, and the G, and the level, and all of that. And he said, "I'd like to comment, but I can't." In other words, where does he get, this nigga's getting all of that stuff? Well, I'm just going to the University of California library, right, and getting all the books on masonry. That's in the early days and I'm studying everything. And then I'm able to talk his language better than him. And one time I was at my mother's house. My mother was Eastern Star. No, Eastern Star. They all back here everywhere. So anyway, I had a group of brothers. This was way up in 83, 82. And I was talking about Freemasonry. I was talking about Jubilee, and Jubileum, the way he was hit in the side, hit in the da-da-da-da-da, and he was buried in a shallow grave, and this grip is to pull you out of the grave because they tried to pull him out by the regular, and he slipped back in the grave, right? And so they used this lion's grip, right? And I was telling them all of that, and my mother was panicking, you know. So my father told me, he said, your mama's a Eastern Star. I said, I know that. But I mean, because I was at the house and I was talking all that stuff to the brothers. And then I told them, I said, see, masonry, the highest you can get is 33 and a third degrees, I said, 33 and a third degree is only 1 degree above freezing. 32 degrees of freezing. I said, they just throwing out because I'm talking about Islamic knowledge is so heavy, and I said, they just throwing out 33 and 33rd degree Mason, all that stuff they have, that ain't nothing. And then I was talking it too, and stuff that they had, like if my mother and her friends had not been, if they wasn't way up there, the stuff that I'm talking, they just picking up on for my research. And that's why she couldn't sit still. I said, what's wrong with my mama? She's the Eastern Star, you know. And I was telling them all about, anyway, look, this is a special time. And leadership got to be special. Leadership has to be special. And we have to do what we're doing for the next zillion years. That's what we'll do. If whatever they come, we're not going to play the game not going to play that game with them. We're not going to play the game with them. That game, it won't last. It never lasted. And historically, we trying to do the things that we getting from the Quran first. And it talks about the cyclical nature and the universe. I mean, on the earth and the moon, sun, and that's what we're dealing with. Okay, so history has its own patterns. If you study that enough, you can see these patterns. And then if you start forecasting and predicting, this look like it's going to happen, and then you keeping score, you say, man, I said the score was going to be so in Chicago 5 and so 3, and they start coming up that same, right? That's the score. Okay, the score in the world we're living in, look, it's too deep right now. It's always been deep. But our people are being slaughtered and murdered by the hundreds of thousands in Yemen, but they holding on. Man, some bad brothers, man. They serious. They holding on. Hezbollah is holding on, and everybody, you can see them coons, them Lebanese coons coming on. They're not helping us. They're this, that, and other. And everybody else in Lebanon is waving flags. Thank y'all for coming in. Man, y'all got heat and oil. Y'all got gasoline. Hey, man. And they're happy. Right? They're happy. They got some of them coons. Day before yesterday, Saudi Arabia slapped something on Qardan Hassanan, loan to Allah, the same name we use for our help. They got an organization from Lebanon to Saudi Arabia. They slapped a thing on it because they're Zionist stooges, right? Okay. When Allah, we use it as a blessing. Some people would call it almost a curse to be able to see all of this stuff and not do what you want to do about it. Right? That's where trust, that's where tawakkul comes. Trust in Allah. When you can look at all of this stuff and you say, what part do we play in it? What part? Okay, we're going to discombobulate boss man. That's what we can do, right? Can't raise no army because he'll fill up the army. 99% of the people in the army will be polices from his army. So you can't raise an army and go down and do nothing about it, right? So you don't even waste your strength, right? You don't use up your strength and become anxious. This is what tawakkul, this is what trust in Allah. When you turn your whole stuff over to Allah. This is tafweed. This is like what Musa is saying. And he said, I turned my whole affairs over to you. Right? That's the same thing. That's the way we look at it. We turn our affair, and we have a long time ago. That's why we're in a unique position. Other people would look at it, oh, they're on the news all the time. Oh, they have everybody coming to, go ahead, right? That's good. That's not where we're coming from. And thanks to Allah that we had the history and the time and the wealth to learn what's what. Those people are doing what they do because they don't see no opening. If I don't do, all of them are not the police, but they say this Islam is a team sport, and if we don't play on the team, we don't get no, you know. And they sometimes they use examples like me. You look at Musa, you don't cooperate, you just won't be around, you know. And then people will look at say, man, your best friends was these Iranians. You were the star of their show, and they loved you, and they praised you all the time, and now they won't talk to you. I said, they won't talk to me, but those others are very happy. You think that people are too stupid to be able to look here and see what's going on? If they're doing all of that everywhere else, then they know who everybody is. You don't have to meet, in Tehran every week and shake everybody's hand. Right? You know, and they know, and this is the language of struggle. And they know when you come out and you say certain things that we have to blockade run, we have to do this, we have to do that we didn't start that last week, but it started that a long time ago. But then, all of a sudden, you look up and say, you got to go and take a chance and help the brothers out. The brothers need your help, and pretty soon trucks are coming in, the ships are coming, and they come in Syria, they come in Lebanon. Okay, go back a few months. Just go back. See who's telling who what they got to do. Oh, what they should do. Okay, maybe next there'll be blockade running. That'll be great. That'll be great. But one thing about it, all your friends, what we call friends, are in a huge struggle, and they holding on. So what kind of coons would we be if our friends are holding on in Yemen and they really getting it down there? Right? What if the Lebanese are holding on, right? What if Iraq been destroyed and laid waste? What if Iran is triple, quadruple sanctioned, re-sanctioned, and they rolling along, right? And what if they get a breath of fresh air, they run the oil prices up to up to 80 something dollars a barrel, I think is where it's at now, right? Okay. So who you think is not going to buy that oil at $75 a barrel and it's 80 something a barrel? Everybody that can get over there, right? Yeah, everybody's going to buy it. Or they'll transfer it in the middle of the ocean to this ship. You know what I mean? They sit over there, pump it. They say we just lose $1 if we pump all night the oil over there, and then we'll take it on over there. And this ship will go back and meet another ship from Malaysia, Indonesia. They would just be pumping oil in the middle of the ocean, right? All day long. It's all right, homeboys. It's $85 a barrel. We're going to get it to you. With all the charges, we're going to give it to you on site at $65 a barrel. So if we lose $10 in transfer here and another there, you're going to have $65 zillions of barrels. Who's going to buy it? China is even running low on oil. You think China ain't going to buy no oil? Okay. The stuff that we go through ain't nothing here. People look at it, they said, boy, that's sad. I said, ain't sad. What are you talking about? This is a joke, right? If you set for it, this is a joke. Hey, man. It was serious 50, 45 years ago would be the last, maybe even 30. Those years back then when you're acquiring the knowledge about all of this stuff. But after you get it and understand the flow, and especially with your understanding of Islam. So let me speed up. So we have to define leadership ourselves, what it is, and this stuff about living the evolution. That means that it's a long-term implementation plan. Because living evolution means that evolution is happening right in front of your face, but you're living and you're participating in that. Okay. So, as we say, we might as well go for it. Okay. Everybody's heard of the military industrial complex, right? Okay, they got a political industrial complex, a political machine, a bunch of gobbly-headed people, right? And you got to, if you want to be something in this society, you have to go along with the political industrial complex. That means you got to support the Army and all of that, and they got to be supported by the CIA and the FBI, CIA and all that, going to get information, and it's going to make sure that they have to build weapons and all of that, so that it's a whole vicious cycle. And we have to explain this to the American people. That's our job. We have to explain it to the American people. That all of your taxes and all of your wealth, that you are a people that was top of the line materially some years ago, and now you're moving to the bottom of the barrel. You're considered the first of third world countries. Like for third world countries, you're in first place. Roads deteriorating, airports. If you think I'm driving, go to Kennedy Airport and go to airport in China, anywhere. Right? Let's go. And see what the stuff is. They got cones here, cones there. You can't walk over here, you can't get over there, and you don't know where you're going. Right? Because New York is old, out of date. It's the last century. It's from the old days, the old empire, the American empire, when it was number one. It's not nowadays. Everybody else, they just wouldn't do that. Okay, now for me and you, everybody else would say, we would not like your position because first you make boss man mad, and worse than that, you make the Zionists mad. You make the Zionists mad. And the Zionists run boss man and boss man, and so we said, that's great. So not only we do it with pride. We do it with happiness. We sit here and we make a fool out of boss man all the time. Right? Is he controlling us? He has some effect. He can put anybody with us or around us he wants. But the tractor beam is us. We putting it on him. We're having more influence on him than he have on us. Can you imagine? A handful of folks have more, influence on the whole United States of American infrastructure. And we know it. Yeah, we actually know it. The money that boss man spend on us is ridiculous. It just, why would you waste all of that money on us, All you got to do is come and ask us. We'll tell you, well, we're doing this, boss man, and we're going to do that. And we'll be 90% accurate. We're going to leave a few points so he don't know, you headed over that way, but are you headed directly there? Are you headed this way or that way? It's always headed over that way. So political industrial complex, think tanks and all that, mean that we have to trap the system, trap it in our pattern, and it's Negroid. Yeah, sure it is. And he don't understand it, and when he look up, he's being laughed at by everybody. And his Negroes, we're not going to lose any sleep trying to convince Negroes and other people, fraternities, this group, that group, because we can see many people here have a fraternity look that they, and not Freemasons, but you could imagine that boss man is going to put all of his crew on you, and then if it's Islam, he could tell the Negroes, well, they Muslims, and you Freemasons, and then they'll all be in it together. All of them will be in it together because they don't know what the next step is or what to take, because they're back in the 19th century and at least the 20th century and the early part, because they never evolved. I don't care whether it's the NAACP and all of, they have not evolved to what's now. And all of those groups look at what, they don't would look at it, they look at what we're doing, they said, that's insanity. That's insanity. Therefore, we'll help boss man. That's what they do. You can smell, you can tell who's doing what, or what. If you can't tell the exact team, you could tell the people that play that way and what teams they come from. They play that way. That's the way they play. They don't have to wear a jersey, say I play on boss man team number 1, on team number 6. Don't have to do that. The pattern of behavior. The pattern of behavior, look, and for those nice people, if they can watch the news and listen to what we say here and ponder, and it don't have no effect on them, they're not smart. They're just not smart. And sometime, it may catch up with them one way or the other. I wouldn't put the life of my wife and children in the hands of this bum for nothing. I'd rather have my wife and children all mad at me for being a troublemaker. If you be quiet, nobody would kill. Because they tell them, your son get killed because of you. I said, shit, you niggas is crazy. Excuse the language. So y'all is crazy. So if boss man tell you, which he will, if you don't straighten up, I'm going to make somebody in your family hurt. Well, if you quit, that's all he'll have to do. Is go tell you something. I tell him, hey, you better get busy. Yes.
Right now, to that point, a lot of leaders of families having to make the decision of taking a shot to lose their job. And when you just said that, I thought of a husband that got put to him, at work, maybe Friday, you got to take the shot or don't come back Monday. And he said, I ain't going to take it. And he go back home and his wife say, why'd you lose your job? What would you say to somebody at this hour who's facing the tug of war of being a provider, the tug of war of having to do what society is telling them?
Okay. You remember the March of Dimes? When you was younger, they still had that, right? And you see little kids with the polio, they had little, okay. Does anybody remember iron lungs? Iron lung, yeah, they put the kids in, huh? Right, you had that big old thing and you had to lay in there. When I was in Africa, okay, I had friends that was boxers. You know where alligators walk? We used to do an exercise, crawl on our fingers like this. You would be looking like an alligator. That really, I don't do it now, it was a while back. But it was good for you. Boxers did it, for their grip and everything. Uh, when I went back to Africa in 72, 15% of the people had polio. When I was in South America and I walked around like an alligator on my hands, everybody looked. When I did it in Africa, nobody looked because the high level, so many people had polio and all of that they got around like that. In Africa, when I was first there, they don't do it now because so each individual a lady was here the other week and they asked about that and I gave her a little letter. I said, you do what you want, but I gave her the results of what so Malaysia and Indonesia especially, all them countries, they did research on this because her idea was maybe it has a pork hormone, something like that, which it don't. They did research on it. Okay, so uh, personally, the people called me for months. They said, you're on the old folks thing and you can get you So I would they sent messages up to the house, right? Probably 1,000, not 1,000, I'm exaggerating. But come and get your shot. So I said, man, I ain't taking it. So finally, they called me and I said, okay, I'll come around there. And so the lady said, I will be at the CVS. So my decision was either this thing is very bad or it's very good. It's either one of those. Either it's going to kill me, but I'm 76, so I ain't got but a few minutes left anyway. So I'll know within a couple of hours if I fall out. So I took the shot. Then when it was time for the second shot, I went back and I took it. And what I remembered was polio, Dr. Salk, and the vaccines. I just remembered that they was good. And that if the people, they got schemes as killing people by the zillions already, and the public thing wouldn't probably be the smart way to do it like that. Anyway, I took it. And if anybody don't want to take them, it's up to them. But for us, the ulama overseas and all that, plus Iran is making zillions of them, so everybody's trying to, the revolutionaries is taking them, they've taken them on the battlefield and everywhere else. So I would say, might as well give it a shot. Plus, look, the people is dying so bad. I'm not pro the thing because the people chase me down. I got 50, I don't know more, not that many, but I got a lot of please come get your thing. And then I said, how's the people they calling me every other day? So I knew it was a special thing that they was putting. I mean, this was the government call. No? No, they wanted me to have it. So what I have to go over in my mind, so if the government made it, they got the cure for it. So now if they got the cure, so it's a lot of pondering. But I took it. I'm still here, and now my plan is that we can do what we want because we're just asking Allah. We don't have to get it. I'm the happiest man in the world, but I would like to be around another 25 years to get this stuff done. I would like to. I don't need to be. And they just before I go in the grave, you just if you couldn't talk to me, of course, but I'll be happy to be here this long. Because remember, all of my friends have been taken away a long time ago, in the 60s, in the early 70s. Anybody you read about from California, we grew up in the penitentiaries together. We was all friends. In Oakland, I live in Oakland. That's where I'm from. So anyway, I believe I'm here for a reason. I actually believe in that mission-orientated stuff. I technically believe it. I'm almost certain of it. Well, there is a level of yaqeen. I'm certain that I'm here for a reason. And I also believe that Allah is looking out for me and that I know that the stuff we do now, I couldn't do this. I pretend like when we talk, yeah, I'm going to do this to the white man. That's pretend stuff, just between us. You can't do it if Allah is not protecting you. I'm the Zionist enemy number one. The Zionists run over people in trucks and throw them out of windows. The Zionists are the meanest people in the world. They meaner than Boss Man himself, if that's possible. They're technically meaner than Boss Man. The Zionists are. Okay, so I already know if Allah wasn't looking out for me, I wouldn't be here. So taking a little thing, and I don't know. Everybody have to make their own decision. I would never tell nobody, man, you got to take that thing because protect your family. And then I know ladies just going to say, look, out of several things, food, clothing, and shelter are the main things. So if you take it and you die in 10 years, okay, we'll get your stuff, Social Security, But in the meantime, because that's the way ladies think. They think of, look, boss man said it, you have to do it. That's what they believe that. They push boss man. Good God Almighty. They push boss man because, see, boss man, used to have, the system has power. But white women have slipped up on the system and they can't tell them much what to do. And the white man himself, the males, you notice they acting funny? Been acting that way in Britain. But they don't have absolute authority. When you got absolute authority, the ladies will pay attention. Say, I don't want to say it, to pretend like we didn't say this. But that's true. If you, I used to look at it in the Mac game. That's why I never wanted to do stuff like that. They used to call me Whole Hog and Hank because all the girls I grew up with, I would take them out on the weekend, big timer, and just take them out. Y'all, let's have a party and everything, and I never went and run off looking for them most of them high yellow pointed nose people from another neighborhood. It was my homegirls that we all grew up together. We come up together and so everybody else run straight to Hollywood or wherever they could to find somebody, I had to show people a picture of Miss Mary a while back. This lady was so black. This is blacker than this right here. Anybody see that picture? Because the people saw a picture of one of the ladies. They said, "Oh, you like them red bones." I said, "Man, I liked everybody that was girls." And I showed them a picture of Miss Mary. I said, "Now, Miss Mary is black. This is light black for Miss Mary." Remember that picture I showed? So the point is, I never made those distinctions about our people. But back to this virus that's going around, all the stuff they say it started in China. China said you started and brought it over here, and we caught your butt on it, and we put a freeze on it because we saw what you did, and about 5 people died in China, right? And you dummy, this got loose on you, and now you mad that this got loose on you, and all the rest of y'all, Europeans, everybody dropping dead. Well, it's a lot of Iranians, but now they're making their own stuff, and it's coming down. See, okay. I'm not a doctor. I'm just a technical Muslim, and the Muslim said that it's all right to take it. To get back to the original question, the ulama and especially Indonesia, they said not that they the toughest, but that's what they said. That's all I could find. And all the Muslims is taking it. They saying, please, y'all got any of that, those virus stuff? That's what so, hey. Yeah, you can't, hey. So whatever it is, it ain't no pork product in it. They were saying there was a pork product. The lady that was here last was signed, sealed, delivery. We say what you want, but I don't care. I wasn't going to take it, but they chased me down. I'm not saying they forced me to take it, but they just bothered me to death. They actually bothered me to death. Every day I'd get a phone call. You're such and such an age. You should take it. I said, man, I'm a trust in Allah. And then they just kept on. So I said, okay, I'll take it. I looked and I saw everybody else saying none of them died yet. Except a few that, that took it. I don't know what it was. But anyway, self-monitoring. Let me move toward a close. The subject today is leadership. Leadership based on vision. What's your vision about where you want to go and what you want to do and how you want to go there? And what's your potential? In the dictionary, potential is something that's powerful, it's something that's potent. That's what potential is. But it haven't become yet. It haven't become, you haven't used it. So that's what potential is. So we got potential. The government knows us, they've studied us for all of these years, and we've studied them. I think it's a fair fight. I think it's a fair fight because they got all this to use, and then we got all the history and everything else to use. And so far, psychological guerrilla warfare, discombobulation, you know what I mean, tractor beams and all that stuff. Now, we're having fun with it. We might as well. Hey, I'm not going to sit up in the house scared to go anywhere or mad at boss man because boss man does those things. So we're going to have fun. That's always say, hey, whatever it is, I'm going to have fun doing this. Okay. Ability to make strategic visionary decisions, being creative visionaries. Okay. We'll talk about the great man theory later on. The great man theory in history leadership, or the situational leader. Does the situation and the environment produce the type of leaders that's needed, right, for that time? Or is it the great man theory? The great man was born to be the great man. I think it's a little bit of both. For my self-research, it seems that once you pipe into a mission, if that mission is Islam, Allah got you covered. And the more you get towards tafweed, turning everything over to Allah, shoot. One level of tafweed, say that you get there, you stop making your plans and structure organizational stuff and you turn it all over to Allah. That's a great state because we do make plans and stuff like that, but we still turn them over to Allah. Yeah, we just using our brain a little bit. We're not going to talk about Wal Asr today, but we have a unique response to history. And we're thankful to live during this period of time. It's probably the most dangerous because there's times when a nation been threatened or a region, but there's no time when the whole earth has been threatened by the human being's behavior, right? So you can't hide. If you live in Alaska, it's tough. If you live down in the islands, half of your island is already underwater. Right now, today, ocean rising.
If the icebergs melt, the earth heats up. That affects everything. No reflection.
Hey, man. Dear believers, this Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us, you could see it living right now. Okay, I'll mention a few things about self-monitoring. You have to monitor yourself. Historical reflection, rise and fall of nations. Boss man and the Negro. And the Quran talked about they'll be hemmed in by the very thing that they mocked at, right? That's Quran. And that's what we did to boss man. And we do it to him all the time. He'd make fun of us. He'd have Negroes make fun of us. Yeah, that nigga there, you see, he talking that trash, watch and see. And here we are. And boss man is trying to take off airplanes with people on the wheel. He's the laughing stock of the world. Ain't nobody laughing at us. Is boss man the laughing stock or are we? He is. And see, for him to be laughed at is bigger, is different. Like boss man, nor the Zionists, they can't take a joke. They want you to worship them. And if you don't, boy, they get mad. I'll fix you, nigga. You don't worship me? That's the way the white man talk here in America. Yes, he do. He act like that too. Don't he act? He act like that. Boss man act. You don't worship me? The poets used to say the white man got a God complex, right? Yeah. Hey, man. Illa, you worshiping a little old something else other than me? Why, you stupid nigga, you po. You know, just wait here for a minute. Let me get back. Right? I'm telling you. And we doing it publicly. And guess what? I'm not saying we're right all the time, but we're so accurate that it's just like throwing a pie and hitting the boss man every time in the eye. Pop! And you could throw it from behind and still hit him in the eye. You throw it from across the room, you throw it way up in there, and it comes down. He ain't even looking. Pop! Hit him in the face. All the time. That's the way it is. So We don't run away from this job. Actually, we kind of like it. Okay, let me finish up. Are there any questions or comments? I didn't mean to stray, but our focus was leadership. And thanks to Allah, it's an honor and a privilege to be a part of this. Yes.
A sister said, very revelatory comments on Imam W.D. Muhammad. Jazakallah khair for enlightening us.
Mm-hmm.
And then someone has shared it was an article about them basically putting up I guess a statue of Huey Newton in Oakland recently. And I guess they sent it because, like, you talk a lot about that history
Mm-hmm.
period, and Huey Newton. So I wanted to say that. There was one more thing someone shared.
Yeah, Huey Newton, he did good. When he went to the prison, I don't know what they did to him. He came out messed up, and he finally got killed by a crack. He had a lot of trouble with drugs and everything, but he killed a young girl, 17-year-old prostitute. He used to come in joints with now, what's her name? Bobby Seale stayed, except Bobby, he supports the system, not supports the system, but you got to get in there and get busy. So Huey just lost it. When he came out in 1970, he was shaking down store owners. I spoke with him on the platforms a couple of times in not recent years, but in those years. And they did something to him in the penitentiary. I don't know what it was, but he went in a revolutionary, and came out.
Could it be far-fetched? I mean, he was doing stuff with everybody else. Experiment
Oh, in the penitentiary, shoot, California. I don't know if I ever told y'all about Mr. Too Sweet. And when I was in one penitentiary, Mr. Too Sweet was a cool Negro. We was all young, say about 19 to 20. We was in a medium security prison. They got a place called Vacaville. I don't know if y'all ever heard about it. But did y'all ever see One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest? Shock treatment and all that? Bam! That's where it started in California. Okay. So Mr. Too Sweet, he was a cool Negro with his pump and his rag tied around his head. He was we liked him. He was from L.A. And Mr. Too Sweet went to Vacaville, and he came back, and Mr. Too Sweet was tired. Well, that was his nickname, Mr. Too Sweet. And he was quiet. Man, it took him a month or two to get back his regular Too Sweetness. But whatever they did to him in Vacaville, I'll put it this way. Coming from California, they had started working on lobotomies, cutting out part of all that. And Prolixin and Thorazine and all that, they started it first out there. They call it the Prolixin shuffle, the way you walk when you own it. And they said they're going to use it at such and such a place. I said, man, the fence ain't but 4 or 5 feet high at that place. They said niggas can't get over it if they own that, what's the name? They can't get over the fence. They can't, it's just a zombie. Have y'all ever seen anybody on that, yeah, boy, it's terrible. When I came home and I saw what they was doing to people. I said, man, this is cold-blooded. But anyway, yeah, it's called Prolix and Shuffle. Okay. Yes, we're going to go to California very soon, and we're going to sue Boss Man for $300 million. Yes, it is. But if you look at on our old stuff, we had that we was going to raise $15 million, right? Well, it ain't nothing new. We knew we wasn't going to raise no $15 million around here or at Dar Hydra. So we've been planning did Boss Man trap us or did we trap Boss? This is the question. All of this stuff that he did, all the laws that he broke with us, did he trap us with a dummy, two dummies, a whole dummies, like that whole Oakland crew dummies? Did they fall into a trap or did they trap us? Was we standing at the door praying for them to bum rush us and show that film to everybody? This is the white shoe Arabs and the Negro bum rushing one of the last independent Masjid in the black community. You have to ask yourself, did we manipulate them or did they manipulate us? Right? How did it come about? They've went in and they've taken certain property. They've just signed it over. Can you do that legally? You can't even do it. Right? Can the people call? They haven't called in a month. Y'all got to get back on the horn now. I ain't going to say that. But they haven't even called. So the dummies have to have held up on paying the taxes to the tax people gave them the masjid or let them come buy it, right? And da-da-da-da-da. But I got 8 arrests saying that I was arrested at the masjid and they kept me from there and they didn't let me get the mail from there, so they're in more trouble. Plus our accounts, plus everything. Can't lose. Can't lose, even if one of them come through on one thing. And if they don't, with all of that crime they did, we'll write great books on it and pass them out for free till they get on the best sellers list or best giveaway accepted list, whatever it is. We can't lose. We can't lose. And if they kill us, well, excuse the expression, nigga about 2 feet from the grave already. All this gray hair, you can't, you know what I mean? Of course, feel great is fine, you know. I know somebody is helping out around here. Okay, any more questions or comments?
There wasn't any more. Someone
Okay.
shared a link with I have to watch the whole video, but it was a link talking about political prisoners and something tribunal, but I'll have to watch it and let you know what it is.
Okay. Okay. If that's it, then we'll be back, inshallah, Tuesday. O Allah, we seek thy refuge from anxiety and grief. We seek thy refuge from lack of strength and laziness. We seek thy refuge from cowardice and niggardliness. We seek thy refuge from being overpowered by debt and the oppression of men. O Allah, suffice us with what is lawful, keep from us what is prohibited. With thy grace, make us free from want of what is besides it. Ameen. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil